Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Scramble Drill. I'm Josh Johnson. Over there, Ben Watts. Coming in on a Saturday while March Madness is playing in the background.
Out of the blue.
Yeah.
A little bit of a random.
It was one of those where, like, I just had some time to kill, texted Ben, hey, you wanna do an episode? And he was like, yeah. What are we gonna do? I was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. So here we are.
Watching Kansas get smacked by Gonzaga, and Josh
Dude,
is like,
too.
you want to record? Yeah, man, let's do it.
I was doing the exact same thing. I was just sitting on my couch watching Kansas get destroyed. Like, this is boring. We should do something more productive. So let's do a podcast episode.
My Gamecocks are already out of it. We got popped around first game by Oregon.
Yeah. My Wolfpack
how's
are
State
like
do, or have
America's
they
Cinderella right now. So we're still in it somehow.
Have y'all played yet? Who'd y'all beat?
Yeah, we won our first game. We destroyed Texas Tech. We play Oakland today.
What makes it worse for my team is we lost to, I'm completely blanking on the guy's name now, but he played for us last season, transfers to Oregon, and then drops 40 points on us.
Oh, no.
Kuisner. So,
that's so unfortunate.
Yeah, I hate that.
That's just the worst. This is another Dynasty themed episode. It's Dynasty season, so we got Dynasty themed stuff. Yeah, it's SZN season. We've got a draft pick value episode here on the show. So
it's really interesting. We talked about, like, I guess, league size yesterday now.
Yeah, the whole crux of this is we're starting a newsletter. By the way, the link to the newsletter will be in the show notes below. It'll come in every week into your email inbox. And it's going to be sort of a one-stop shop for all the research or data that you would need every single week in your email inbox. Bite-sized stuff, but really actionable stuff that you can use to help dominate your fantasy league. So if you're not a big podcast guy, you don't want to listen to a 40-minute episode, but you can read a 5-minute email, it's going to have the same sort of value, just in a smaller chunk.
There you go.
But the whole crux of this episode was I was writing a newsletter, and when I texted Ben and he was like, what should we do? I was like, well, I've been writing this newsletter about draft pick value. Let's just talk about that. So here we are.
I'm always down to talk draft picks. They're the most fun thing to talk about. Like, the value, the flexibility, and everybody gets excited about draft picks.
Draft picks are so much fun because they always get compared to stocks, which is really funny to me. But it is a pretty apt comparison. Like, draft picks are actually, I was thinking about it like this earlier today when I was writing the newsletter. So player values are sort of like your more volatile, like a Bitcoin or crypto or something, where it's like it could go really high, but it could also go really, really low. There's no protection usually involved. Obviously, elite players are elite, but like player values fluctuate a ton. Pick values are like real estate. They always go up in value. They never lose value. So they're really, really fun because if you capitalize on how you use picks, you're never going to lose. Now, if you turn that pick into a player, then you can lose because the player value will fluctuate. It could hit really, really high, or it could be nothing. But the pick value is always going to be steadily moving up in value, and it'll never dip.
Like when there's no name attached to it, but it's just you're sitting there, the 109. It may not be as enticing during the season. Like trying to sell, like if you're a contending team, trying to sell your 110, 109 pick, people aren't as interested. But right now, I've got the 109 in a rebuild. That pick looks really nice right now.
Yeah, somebody is going to come calling. They're going to be like, hey, give me, or in your case, trying to sell your 109, you can go get a proven player for that 109 that you absolutely would not have been able to get 2 months ago because nobody cared about the 109. But today, people really care about it.
I take Puka.
I guess.
Give me Puka for the 109.
You get stuck in that hopium phase where you're like, this could be amazing. This player has so much potential. And then it all comes crashing down in about 3 months when we realize, oh, they're actually not very good. Or it could be the opposite.
All of that combine hype, and I watched his film and he's really good. And the NFL spits him back out and says, nope.
Theory only gets you so far.
God, that's a great quote from that movie. And it applies so much to what we do.
Yeah. So this episode, we're diving into a way to capitalize on your rookie picks to where you never whiff on a pick again. I don't know about you, Ben. I fell into the Trey Sermon hopium a few years ago, and I drafted him. I don't remember what pick it was. You've never whiffed on a pick.
Not
never
once.
Ever. Not once, not ever.
Maybe JSN at the 102 to Superflex. I might have whiffed. Maybe I didn't. We'll see.
Jahmyr Gibbs was on the board. Anthony Richardson was on the board.
I did see though. I had the 104 and still got Gibbs.
You did. You're 1 for 2, maybe 2 for 2. JSN is kind of, he's not really a bust. He's just like the jury is still out.
Yeah. Can we please get Tyler Lockett out of there? Please.
Okay. So why don't we just dive into the strategy of how this works? Obviously, draft picks, sort of hit or miss. I went and looked like since 2020, or maybe it was since 2021. So it's 21, 22, 23 rookie drafts. So the last 3 years. And I just went and looked at all the top 12 picks in those drafts based on the rookie ADP when ADP finished up. And so I just assigned like a binary value to if those picks hit or didn't hit. I didn't say hits, busts. It was just like, did this pick hit, yes or no? And I found that half of the players taken in those 3 rookie drafts hit. So 50% hit rate. The other 50% doesn't necessarily mean they busted, but it just means that they haven't hit yet. And a couple of those names could change. Like Kyle Pitts did not get a hit assigned to him. Javonte Williams did not get a hit assigned to them, even though at different points during their career, I think people would have considered them hits, but also at different points in their career, people would have considered them misses, just based on, Kyle Pitts sucked for 2 years in a row, but it wasn't necessarily his fault as a player. Javonte Williams tore his knee up, and people were worried about, like, is he ever going to get back to his normal self? Is he going to have a job when he gets back? Is he going to get a second contract? All this stuff. So they're just like, they're not hits, but they're not necessarily busts either. So there's a few of those types of players layered in here, but half of the picks have hit. So you're at a 50% hit rate, which means that when you go to make a rookie pick in the first round, data says it's a coin flip, whether or not you have a player that is a stud in your lineup, or in some cases, somebody that's like you lit the pick on fire and you got nothing from it, a la Trey Sermon, Quentin Johnston, guys that just forget that ever happened. Did you take Trey
Sermon at the 105?
Might have. A few years ago.
In the same draft you took Kyle Pitts at the 102?
Yeah, that may or may not have happened. Maybe. It did happen. It was so rough.
I'm very happy you did, because I had the 104, and I traded for the 101 in that league to take Najee. It's a 1 quarterback league, so I mean running back's king. So Najee was like the obvious 101, which I guess in hindsight he only had 1 good season, but Najee was the obvious 101. I'm like, I want Kyle Pitts so badly, so I traded for the 104. I thought he would be there. Josh decides, no, I'm gonna take him at 2.
Another
Very
thing,
happy you did, because I got Jamar Chase at 4.
Yeah, that was a massive mistake. Massive mistake. Remember when Jamar Chase, like everybody was freaked out about his preseason? I got freaked out about his preseason. Dude couldn't catch a ball to save his life in the preseason. And I was like, okay, this is scary. Kyle Pitts is sitting here. I can only have one of them. Who would I rather have?
Of all time.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah.
I stand by that.
I gave Najee Harris a hit. I'm curious how you feel about that. I only gave him a hit because he had that top 5 season his rookie year.
I would give it that.
Okay.
You did. I mean, I know he's fallen off since, but you did get one season where you were like, boom, this is exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah. That's what okay. Good. So I gave him a hit. I'm curious how like the wider public would feel about that. Like, is Najee Harris a good draft pick considering what we have had from his career thus far? That's a great debate to have.
We forget that most people, probably including us, I had to go back and listen, but if you ranked your dynasty running backs after Najee Harris's rookie season, like it was Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris were 1 and 2.
Yeah. Clearly 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey was in there, but that was the period time when he was so injured.
He was still banged up, so people were low on him.
Yeah.
Like Christian McCaffrey was like 5 to 7.
Wow. What a time. Anyways.
DeAndre Swift was the RB3, by the way.
Oh, I remember that. I remember those days.
Good days.
Man. I went back, found that it was a 50% hit rate on the past 3 rookie drafts. Just for a random first round pick. But then I realized that if you narrowed the focus from all the first round picks and you just looked at the first round picks that actually did hit, which I assigned as picks 1 through 3 in 1 quarterback leagues and the top 5 rookie picks in Superflex leagues. Most of the time, those hit. Obviously, they don't always hit, but instead of it being like a coin flip, it's like an 85 to 90% hit rate on those picks. And when those players hit, those elite prospects, when they hit, they're really, really good. It's not like, a hit for a random first could be just like a top 20 season, which is still good, but it's not like amazing. No, when the elite prospects hit, they give you top 5 seasons. So I think it was
Bijan Robinson,
right.
Gibbs.
Anthony Richardson was hurt this past year, but I think I went and looked and like 95% of the top 5 picks in Superflex leagues the past 3 years, 95% of those picks have had at least one top 10 season at their position. And many of them have had multiple, and many of them have had like a top 5 season instead of a top 10 season. So like these picks hit. We know they are super valuable. And if you get a pick in the top 3 in 1 quarterback or the top 5 in Superflex, you're probably getting a very good player. So knowing that, I was like, all right, well, what if we just never made picks outside of the top 5 in Superflex, outside of the top 3 in 1 quarterback? How can we make that happen? I basically came to the conclusion that if you just went through the process of acquiring draft picks like you normally would in a rebuild, where you go out there and you sell all these dudes and you end up with like 5 picks, you can still go and acquire all those picks because the way their value works is it always goes up. So like having a bunch of picks, still a very good thing to do, but you don't have to make all those picks. You can acquire a bunch of picks and only make the picks inside the top 3.
Usually I
trade all the other ones.
I prefer not to make the picks.
Right. You trade all the other ones for either future picks or for veterans that score points for you, and then you've never missed on a pick. Like, it seems foolproof, but it's also, you had to be kind of bold to do it because it's kind of an against the grain concept to go and acquire a bunch of picks and then only pick like 1 or 2 of them and sell off the rest for other stuff. But if you want to kind of like get the snowball rolling on value and never lose any, that seemed to me, based on what I found, the most efficient way to do that in a dynasty league.
I like say in one of our main leagues, I had this past off season, I had the 102, 104, and 105 for those picks. Now, I had 3 players I really liked at all those spots, but I had narrowed in on 2 players. Now, granted, it's not 100% foolproof. I kind of viewed JSN as sort of can't miss. I was super high on him and his profile, and he still, like you said, can be really good. But I'd narrowed in. I had quarterbacks already on the team. For sure wanted him at 2. I did not need a quarterback. So I was going to let Anthony Richardson fall, and then I wanted Jahmyr Gibbs at 2. So cool. Got those narrowed in. Still had that 5th pick. Traded that pick for Cooper Kupp. Now, say what you will about how Cooper Kupp did this past year, but I had 2 players that I really liked, thought for sure that I had zeroed in were going to hit. Traded that other pick, guaranteed points in my lineup this year.
Yeah, and in theory, that's the way that you sort of get the ball rolling. Now, obviously, Cooper Kupp, we had a little thing called Puka Nacua that came out of left field on that one.
That's an outlier.
And
ignore that.
Bit of an outlier, wouldn't you say?
Do not look at Puka.
I think the other thing is, like, if you don't ever make a pick outside the top 3, obviously what's not going to happen is you're not going to get Puka Nacua. You're not going to get Devon Achane. These guys that were either, like, Achane was the last pick in the first round or something. Puka was, in some cases, on waivers, but for the most part, like a 3rd rounder or something. You obviously can't make those picks if you don't have them, but what you can do is, if you happen to be one of those guys that zeroes in on players in the pre-draft process and gets excited about prospects, you let other people draft them and then you trade for them while their value is still lower. Well, before they have hit the lottery, I guess. So like in Achane's case, nobody valued him as a top 24 running back last year. I did, but like nobody did. You could go trade him for an equivalent like top 24 running back price, get him for that, and then he skyrockets up to RB6 and you benefit from that if you're convinced about it. But like, obviously not every prospect, you're not going to have your truther prospects for every prospect, but instead of making the pick,
so few and far between that you actually can find that. Like if they're as good as you think they are in your head, like the NFL would have taken them higher. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you really feel convinced about a player, just try and trade low for them before something good happens. But also, like, they won't always hit. Sometimes they'll just flame out bust. So, you know, maybe don't always trade for them, but
somebody in your league will. You'll get a sucker who wants one.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to avoid these tire fires where I take Trey Sermon at the 105, I take Quentin Johnston at the 107, because that happened last year. Like, I don't see. There you go. CJ Stroud with 1 pick before him. Imagine if CJ Stroud would have fallen into my lap instead. Jeez.
No, I think you passed on CJ Stroud for QJ.
Did I really?
You had taken Anthony Richardson earlier in the draft.
Oh yeah, well there was no reason.
So you already had quarterback. It was kind of like when I took JSN at 2. Like my quarterbacks were Burrow, Herbert, and Kyler. I'm like, adding Anthony Richardson doesn't help me, but if JSN hits,
right,
I thought he was a can't miss prospect. That helps me.
Yeah, I had Mahomes and Lamar and Anthony Richardson. Adding Stroud, I mean, that would be great. I could trade him to somebody, but obviously he wouldn't have played for me outside of that 40-point week.
Yeah, it doesn't just shock the world kind of thing.
Right. But yeah, I don't like making those picks and then they turn into nothing. That's the worst.
Like, say 108. You trading it for T. Higgins?
Yep.
No T. Higgins is going to score for me.
I know for a fact T. Higgins is a top 15 receiver when he's healthy.
You trading that pick for, heck, 108. Are you trading it for JSN?
Ooh. See, here's the thing. I believed in JSN pre-draft, and then he went out there and was like, fine. But there's a lot of red flags about if he will continue to improve. I would probably trade the 108 for JSN, but that's nowhere near as easy of a trade for me to make as the 108 for T. Higgins. I would rather have T. Higgins today.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at it just from what are the outcomes with JSN, I guess the outcomes are he continues just like he did, because they're probably not going to add anybody, I would imagine. So like if he hits, you have to assume that a couple different things happen. One, that Tyler Lockett takes a bit of a step back in the offense, and that JSN improves a little bit, which I do think is very possible. Then you also have to hope that Geno Smith kind of bounces back a little bit from what he was a year ago, or that Sam Howell gets the starting gig and is better than what he was a year ago in Washington. That's a tough one. That's very difficult.
You know, JSN was a good prospect too.
Oh, I know it. Yeah,
it was just a bad prospect. Kyle Pitts is a great prospect. It's just a bad situation. So, would you rather take the shot on the player, good player, in a bad situation?
Kyle Pitts does have that 1,000-yard rookie season to point to, though.
We forget about
he
that.
has performed. We do. He has performed as an NFL player. Like, how many tight ends have a 1,000-yard season under the belt? Not many.
TJ Hawkinson hasn't done it. Has Mark Andrews done it? I don't know if he has.
I don't think Andrews has done it.
Dallas Goedert hasn't done it.
Nope.
Ray McBride hasn't done it. Sam Laporta hasn't done it.
Nope.
And these are all top end.
Did Evan Ingram do it last year?
I don't think so. I want to say he had like 900.
Is the list of 1,000-yard tight ends right now in the NFL Travis Kelce and Kyle Pitts?
I think so. Evan Ingram has never done it. He had 960 yard.
Man,
people forget about Kyle Pitts.
So you have one very solid. Now, he didn't score. What did he have? One touchdown that year. So like he didn't score for anything.
He had one touchdown.
If he had 5 touchdowns, he would have probably been like the tight end 2 or something.
I stand corrected. Mark Andrews had 1,300 yards in 2021.
That's right. How could I forget that? That was a heck of a year.
Miraculous run. And it was with Tyler Huntley.
It was Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, just lit him up in the back half of the season once Lamar got hurt.
Yeah. Oh, man, I remember that. That was, everybody was freaking out because they're like, wait a minute, Travis Kelce is not the automatic tight end 1 anymore? What are we doing?
He'll be back.
Yeah, that's wild. I forget about that. So, yeah, I think with JSN, like it was a fine rookie season. Was it something like 60-something catches, 600 yards, and 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, something like that. He would have a week here and there where you're like, oh, shoot, JSN, caught a deep ball this week or stuff like that. He still flashes on the tape to me. Like when you see him get the ball in Seattle, you can tell, like, oh, that dude's good. Why doesn't he get the ball more?
I think the problem with him, I'd have to pull this up because I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think he had super great yards per route run numbers. And like, I don't remember him having much of anything where you could point to and be like, yeah, he didn't run a ton of routes, but he was really efficient. Like there was nothing like that happening. Let's see here. His yards per route run is 1.3. That's very bad. Where's Quentin Johnston's yards per route run?
Probably like 0.3.
Let's see. Quentin Johnston had a yards per route. Oh, it's 0.8. Well, that's not good. That's very bad.
That's much worse.
1.3 is better than 0.8. Still not very good, though.
And QJ had no target competition for several parts of the season.
Oh no, he sucked.
But we have digressed.
For me, he sucked.
This really more proves your point about draft picks. Like, look at QJ.
Yeah, he had 400 yards last year.
Not a top 5 consensus pick, but my gosh.
Yeah. Anyways,
where'd we go off topic here?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember where we diverted because we were on and then we went way off.
That's probably my fault.
No, I liked it. I dug where we went with it. Anywho, drafting for or acquiring a bunch of picks. Do you think like because I know we get really excited about when you see a rebuild, and it always happens on Twitter. Somebody will post a screenshot where they've done all this work. They've gone and acquired like 11 firsts over the next 3 years. They've got like, a garbage roster where they've just gutted it to get all these picks. But they're like, I've got 11 firsts over the next 3 drafts. I'm so excited. I can't wait for this 3-year rebuild that I'm about to do. And like my initial reaction to that when I see it is, oh, that's pretty cool. But then I sit with it for like a half a second and I'm like, he's probably still going to stink in like 2.5 years. Like this is not going to be a championship.
You've got to hit all those 11
contending
draft picks.
team. Yeah, I mean, you have to turn them into people who score, or you have to hit on all your picks. But like, let's say you don't hit the 50% threshold. Like, let's say you have a draft like what I had, where you have Kyle Pitts, Trey Sermon, and then I think in the end of the second round, I took Trey Lance. Kyle Pitts is still something, but like 2 of those picks, I lit them on fire and they are worth absolutely nothing. It was one quarterback, but still.
Dropped
They're not
players
on the roster. And like all 3 of those players are not on my roster anymore. Acquiring 11 picks doesn't mean that your roster is going to contend for a championship in 3 years. Like you could still be where you are right now, just with less draft capital.
It gives you an opportunity still to do so for the reasons like we've talked about. Assuming you got 11 first-round picks over the next 2 years, I'm assuming one of those is going to be the 101.
You would.
It better be your pick. It better be the 101. You make that pick, but it gives you so much other versatility with the other picks. You can put points in your lineup with those,
right?
By trading them.
Yeah. So I guess that's the main takeaway from this is hopefully you have your own first round pick when you've gutted this whole thing, so you can kind of dictate, even if it's not the 101, which it probably should be, but even if it's not, it's the 102, or at worst case scenario, the 103, where it's still a very, very good pick that's very likely to hit. Trade the other ones, get some points in your lineup, or roll them into future first, because like right now in March, where we are in draft season with rookie fever, you can take the 107 this year and turn it into a random 2025 first and a second. And that 25 first could be the 107 next year, and you've added a second. Obviously, it could drop in value, but then you've sort of insulated the value. If it's the 112, let's say, in a worst case scenario, you've insulated it by saying, well, it's the 112 next year and a second. Then you've made up some of that value, and it's not super far off. Like, even if it's the worst case scenario for what that trade could be, it's still pretty close. But it could also be the 104 or the 103 next year. And then you've gained an exponential amount of value in doing a trade like that. And not only have you insulated what you traded away, you added value and you lost nothing. So that's another way to do this.
I think I did one of those in one of our leagues where I traded like the 107. Now, in hindsight, probably should have made the pick because the 107 ended up being Garrett Wilson. But I traded the 107 in 2022. Now, I mean, Traylon Burks and all those boys shouldn't have gone ahead of him.
That's true.
In hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. But on paper, it's still, the value was there because I traded the 107 for a 2023 first, and I think I did get a second, or I got like a low-end wide receiver 2 on top of it. And that pick ended up being the 103 the following year. And I got the production from the other receiver.
There you go. That is a perfect example of what we're talking about. It won't always be the 103, but sometimes it is. And then you hit a home run.
It happens.
That's all I've got. Anything else you want to get into before we hop out of here and go watch some more basketball?
A couple things, as my light has decided to die on me, leaving me in the shadows. We're in a bunch of leagues together. I've wanted to commission a league for a while. I have not been doing any. So I'm starting a league. Josh will be in it. a few close friends of Josh and mine. We're trying to pick some active members from other leagues we're in. And we're opening up, I'm holding at least 2 spots for listeners of the league. Now, we are not putting this on Instagram. We're not putting this on Twitter because I want active members of the community. And this tells me that you actually are ingrained in the show. You like the show. You listen to the show. So we're not putting this anywhere, but we're putting it, I'm saying it here on the show, which proves to me that, you listen to the show and you are a true fan. So if you are interested in a league, it's a 12-team Superflex tight end premium. Start 3 receivers, 3 flexes, 2 running backs. Pretty deep league. The scoring setting there, I'm in another league with similar settings. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. So if you are interested, send us a DM on Instagram. I will look at it, or Josh might text me and say, hey, we've got a guy interested. And yeah, that's really all you need to do. All I'm looking for is it's a casual league, but we're trying to have just be active. That's all you got to do. Look at your trades, respond to your trades. That's all we're looking for. I hate putting trades or sending out stuff and it sits in my outgoing box for 2 months because during the off season you don't look at it. So this is, if you're listening to this podcast right now, that means you like Dynasty content. That means you're interested, which means you're going to be interested in a Dynasty league, which means you're probably going to look at it. So this isn't going up on Instagram. It's not going on social media. DM us personally. It shows that you listen to the show and you're interested in the spot.
Yeah. The Instagram is Scramble Drill Show, at Scramble Drill Show. And just DM, I want in the league. And that will let us know that you want in.
We'll know.
Sweet. Also, subscribe to the newsletter. A link for that will be in the description wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can click on the link. It will take you to the little sign up form. Just type in your email. It's free. No spam, nothing like that. I think the only ads in there will be for this podcast. So if you already listen to the podcast, you're already in.
You know about it.
So yeah, so you know about it. Subscribe to the newsletter. It'll be a fun time, super jam-packed with information. Join us in that Dynasty League. That'll be a lot of fun. I cannot wait for that. I've been itching to join another Dynasty League recently, so this will be a lot of fun.
I've never commissioned a league. If you are not active, I will have zero qualms in booting you immediately.
Punting you into the sun.
With an iron fist. I will be fair, but I will be cruel. And if you don't make trades with me, I will boot you.
I mean, fair enough.
It's not optional.
Corrupt commish.
I am 100% for corruption. I will take bribes. I am okay with collusion as long as it benefits me.
Only as long as it benefits you.
I don't care about the other members.
Yeah. Other forms of collusion.
All dead to me.
Illegal, but collusion that specifically benefits you and lines your pocket. That is the type of collusion.
I fully intend to be one of those guys that I mean, we're in a few Dynasty forums and fantasy forums. They like put the trade in the group chat. Like, is this collusion? Yes, it was from me. Yes.
Yeah, I'm the guy who just fleeced the other guy because obviously.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Anyways, join the league, subscribe to the newsletter. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you later this week. Who knows what we're doing? We might just, it might be this, where we shoot each other a text and be like, all right, what are we doing? We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
All right, I'm going to go watch NC State smash Oakland. It's going to be the best. And we're about to go to the Sweet 16. Very excited about it.
Must be nice.
We'll see how that goes. We'll see. That'll do it from us. We'll see you later this week.